Good morning. Hope you're having a great week. It is Tuesday, June 17th, 6:54 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time, local time here in Ellensburg, Washington. I'm in central Washington off of I-90. Maybe a little bit on the western half of Washington. So we're going to just go through the load board. It's 6:54 a.m. Pacific time, 8:54 a.m. Central time, which I think that means it's 9:54 a.m. Eastern. I don't know. It's trying to get all the time zones in my head is not easy. All right, so let's take a look at first of all the number of trucks in Landstar's fleet. Well, this is I feel like I need to preface this every time I talk about this because Landstar is a publicly traded company. I am a contractor with Landstar. I'm a partner with Landstar. I'm not under any kind of obligations for like SEC stuff. So this number right here is the number of active trucks. It's not the number of total trucks in Landstar's fleet, but it gives us some kind of idea of what is going on with Landstar's fleet size. Whenever I first leased on to Landstar, this number was up around 13,000. Now it's down around 7,800. So this is just the number of active trucks. You can be inactive, or what Landstar refers to as out of service, for any number of reasons. If you are past due for an inspection on your truck, or your medical is past due, or there's any paperwork that's required that is past due, they'll put you out of service. If your 2290 is overdue, they'll put you out of service. Anything. Also, you can voluntarily put yourself out of service. Let's say you want to go on vacation for a month and you don't want agents calling you. You can put yourself out of service. So this is the number of active trucks, 7,810, which is a little lower than it was a few weeks ago whenever we did our last load board video, but it's stayed relatively flat over the last few weeks. So Landstar's fleet has shrunk a lot since I started in 2021. Now I'm not even sure if 13,000 was the peak that it hit. So now let's look over at the load board. Total number of loads on Landstar's load board, 69,203. And we're just going to go through some searches. So I had a request for somebody that was thinking about coming over to Landstar, and they wanted to look at oversize, like over-dimensional, heavy haul stuff. So I've never searched for that stuff. So let's look through here and figure out how to search for that. So we're not going to do containers. I don't even know what this category is. Double drop, 3-axle combined. I don't even know what this is. This is, I think, expedite. And then let's do flatbed. Let's do whatever this double thing is. Let's do lowboy. We're not going to do refrigerated. Let's do specialized. And we'll do step deck. We're not going to do van. We're not going to do a max weight because that's what we're looking for is overweight stuff. So now we're down to 5,848 loads. Now let's do minimum rate per mile of $7 per mile, because generally when you're dealing with oversize, overweight, you're dealing with a lot of permits. You have escort vehicles. Those loads generally pay a lot per mile. To see them for $15 a mile or more is not uncommon. So we put it up to a minimum of $7 a mile, and now we're down to only 178 loads. So let's take a peek at them. Now we're not limiting this by contract freight only. This is all of the direct customers, and it's all of this reposted spot market crap. So let's sort by You know what? I should have put in a minimum like revenue because $7 a mile if it's going 10 miles is not a good load. So let's do that real quick. Let's put in a minimum revenue of oh I don't know, $3,000. Let's say $3,000. It's not even worth connecting your truck on an oversized overweight load unless you're getting $3,000. That takes us down to 54 loads. Now we're going to sort by total revenue. Just a second here. This thing is really slow. All right. So, Honey Grove, Texas to Clarksburg, California. 1,800 miles, 1140 a mile, $20,000. It is 100,000 pounds. I'm not going to drill down into every one of these and try to see if there's comments on them for details. I'm just going to skim through these real quick, and if I don't know anything about oversized overweight freight, so if you um, are interested in this stuff, then you can pause the video, rewind it, and all that stuff, and look at all these things. I'm just going to try to scroll through them slowly, and you can look at them on your own. A lot of these are really overweight loads. Every load so far is overweight. Now we're getting to some that are not overweight. New Orleans to Apple Grove, West Virginia is only 35,000 pounds. So it's probably oversized. So we're just going to keep scrolling through. There's only like 78 loads. So we're just going to keep scrolling through until we get to the bottom, and then we'll do normal searches. I didn't restrict this by much of anything, so some of these may be team loads. I don't think team loads are common in oversized overweight because I mean it's hard enough to find somebody to move something that's oversized overweight. To expect a team on top of that, man, you're talking about specialized on top of specialized. All right, and that's all of them. So let me do one more thing real quick. So there's 54, 50, well, it's saying 55 available loads. Now let me remove all of the trailer type restrictions. And we only went up to 60 loads. We only gained 6 additional loads. So, yeah, that's like, man, that's every load on Landstar's load board that's a minimum of $7 a mile and a minimum of $3,000. There's 60 loads on Landstar's load board. That's really bad. All right, now let's do another search. So let's do a minimum of, we'll start out with $3 a mile and $3,000. Oh my goodness. On Landstar's entire load board, there's only 1,085 loads over $3 a mile and $3,000. Let's see what the highest paying load is. Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. I was trying to sort. Instead, I clicked on a load. All right, so it's the oversize, overweight stuff. So we got a couple here. That's a load from Alaska to Huntsville, Alabama, paying $3.90 a mile. But it's a low boy, 25,000 pounds on a low boy. So this might be over dimensional. So let's edit this search and let's get rid of the over-dimensional stuff. Let's do 45,000 pounds. And let's do vans. And let's get rid of lift gates. We don't have a lift gate. Let's go to specialized and do needing power only. And then we'll go ahead and select all containers. 492 loads. This is really bad. Oh, I also don't want to see Canada loads, but the very first load's Laredo, Texas to Calgary, Alberta. $4.18 a mile. So if you like going to Canada, I'm not. I don't even look at Canada loads. I don't even look at Alaska loads because there are some Canadian territories that require your truck to be governed at 65, and my truck is not governed at 65, and I'm not going to govern my truck just so I can go to Canada. I don't. I'm not legal to drive in Canada. I am legal probably to drive in some territories, but I just don't want to deal with the hassle of figuring out what I need to do to drive in Canada. So, let's see. A lot of these loads are extra stop loads. So the number of stops here, if it says 0, that's a normal load. That's one pick, one drop. If it has anything other than 0, those are extra stops. So this one right here that has 12 on it, that is your pick, your drop, plus 12 additional stops. And on the rates that you're seeing on here, I need to explain this in every video. I have to explain it multiple times in every video. Otherwise, I have people in the comment section saying that I'm misleading people. The rates that you see on here are the full rates. There are people get all kinds of different percentages at Landstar. Like if you have your own trailer, you get a higher percentage than somebody that uses a company trailer. There's several different ways that you can get more or less percentage. So what they put on the load board is just the full rate. And then you can figure out what your percentage of that is going to be based on your individual circumstances. So, like, what I get is approximately 70% of what you see on here. I get 65% of the line haul plus 100% of the fuel surcharge. So whatever number you see on here, I get roughly 70% of that. So if you see a load that's $3 a mile, I get about $2.10 a mile on that load. Something that's listed on here at $2.50 a mile, which is a really good rate for an owner-operator, I get about $1.75 a mile, which is not a very good rate for an owner-operator. So yeah, these are the highest paying van loads. We'll scroll through them real quick. Just saw this Lebec, California to Round Rock, Texas, $3.36 a mile. The freight market appears to be dead from my perspective. It's at least it's dead where I'm at in the state of Washington. I haven't been getting load alerts. I've been here for I think it's been, when did I deliver the load? I delivered it on, was it Tuesday of last week? I think I've been here, I think today is, well, this afternoon will be exactly 1 week. Today is the 7th day. I got here like around 1 p.m., 2 p.m. Tuesday of last week. So this afternoon, today will be exactly 1 week that I've been sitting here looking for a load. And I haven't really gotten any. The only load alerts that I've gotten are those cabinet loads out of Oregon, which I don't know how far away those things are, like 300 miles away. Those are like the 35 stop cabinet loads that are paying like $2.80 a mile. They are horrible loads. They are absolutely atrocious loads. They're just they're so bad. Those loads, and then there's somebody that keeps reposting. You know what? I'll pull it up on the load board here in a minute. Let me actually pause the video and pull it up real quick. Well, it's gone. It's not there. This is my load search. This is my load alert that I have set up. Um, and there's no results on it right now. So there's some agent that every morning at 5:30 a.m. local time here in Washington, which is 7:30 a.m. Central, 8:30 a.m. Eastern. So 5:30 in the morning, I get spammed with load alerts. They send, I don't know how they do it, but all at once there will be like around 5 to 10 of the exact same load posted by the same agent, all at the same time, 5:30 a.m. approximately. And it's a load from somewhere in Washington. I forget where. I want to say it's the Seattle area, going to Montana. It's like, and it's some cheap load that's paying like $2.50 a mile or something like that. So it's like, I forget what it is, like 800 miles, 700 miles, maybe 1,000 miles, and it's paying like $2.50 a mile. So it's like $2,500. It's a horrible load. But every morning at 5:30 a.m. during the weekdays, they don't post them on the weekends. Actually, I think he did post it on Saturday. I'm not sure, but I'm surprised it's not on here right now. But they post that load like every morning, and I'm not sure why it's not sitting on here right now. Maybe somebody got desperate and booked that load. But that load that person posts every morning, and then the uh, cabinet loads. Those are the only load alerts that I've gotten. And as you saw on my load alerts, I've got it set up at, can you see it on here? Yeah, $2.50 a mile. Oh, I've got the minimum revenue at $4,000. That's not right. Do $3,000. Oh, I know why it's not showing on here. I have two load alerts set up, and that one is on my other load alert. I'll pull that one up in a second. I thought I had this agent blocked, this SUL agency. I thought I had them blocked for spam. They, I could be wrong, but I think this is the agency that every time I get up here in the Portland, Seattle area, this SUL agent, I think they're the ones that just keep reposting loads. I'll get like 20 load alerts a day from some agent up here that just keeps reposting the same loads over and over again. Some of the Landstar agents are just like really, really, really scummy. Agents, brokers, salespeople, marketing people in general are scummy because they're professional liars, but some are worse than others. All right, so let me pause this and bring up that load. I know it's on my other load alert. Just a second. All right, here it is. Yeah, I was like, man, that load actually got covered. If it got covered, then why do they keep posting it every day? All right, so it's not even the state of Washington. It's Portland, Oregon, to Lolo, Montana, and it's a lot less mileage than I thought. It's 538 miles. It's $1,450. This agent posts this load like every morning, like clockwork at 5:30 a.m. All right, this janky load board is not pulling up the results. Let's try it one more time. It'll probably like end up crashing or something. Yeah, this is Landstar's new load board that they want everybody to use. It is just, you can't even pull up the load. Let's give it a couple of seconds. Maybe it's just taking a long time to load. I don't think it's going to load it up. So yeah, luckily, if I really wanted to look at the information on this load, I could go look at their other load board. But yeah, this is Landstar's janky new load board. Yeah, this is the load that gets posted at like 5:30 every morning, and I don't think it ever ges covered. This is the reason I was so surprised. I was like, it's not on the load board right now. I was like, that somebody actually booked that terrible load. All right, let's go back and let's do some searches. So let's look at, I don't know, 250 a mile is like the bare minimum that you should be running one of these trucks. 250 a mile, if you're getting 70%, that's $1.75 a mile. And if you were to look at your real numbers that it costs you to move the truck down the road, most owner operators are at about $1.75 a mile to move the truck down the road. If you're looking at your all your variable costs, which are your costs per mile, like your maintenance, your wear and tear, your fuel cost is your biggest variable cost, and then you have your fixed costs, which are like your ELD subscriptions, your bookkeeping, your what tax services, um, you know, your 2290s, your registration, your insurance, your truck payment, all that stuff. You need to like put that into some kind of like you need to equate that to a mileage rate. And if you move all of that to a mileage rate, if you move your variable costs, your fixed costs, and you get everything on a mileage rate, then you're probably somewhere in the ballpark of like $1.15 a mile to move the truck down the road. And then you still have to pay the driver. Even if you're an owner operator, you still have to pay yourself. How else do you make your car payment, your house payment? How do you buy food, clothes? None of those are business expenses. None of that's business stuff. Those are your personal things. You have to pay yourself to be able to buy all that stuff. So what's a decent rate to pay the driver? I would say a minimum of 60 cents a mile. In today's market, you need 60 cents a mile to like be able to survive. So if you put all of that together, the 60 cents a mile to pay yourself, and then approximately $1.15 a mile for all your variable and fixed costs, all your operating costs per mile, you're at $1.75 a mile. That's your break even. That's how much it costs to run your business. That's how much it costs to pay for your personal stuff. And you're not able to put anything aside in the bank for unexpected expenses. You're not able to put any savings aside for your personal life or your business. So $1.75 a mile, if you run at $1.75 a mile gross to the truck all the time, you're probably eventually going to go out of business. So like when I put 250 a mile right here as my minimum, that is the minimum. Like I don't like running close to that. Like that, if you do that too often, you're going to go out of business. Um, Minimum revenue, I just don't like doing a whole bunch of loads. Me personally, I would rather do one load a week than 5 or 6 loads a week. I don't like doing a whole bunch of loads because I don't get paid to pick up and deliver and spend time at the dock. The only thing that brokers and customers envision me doing is driving down the road. They don't like it doesn't cross their mind to pay me for sitting at the dock. Even though we have things like detention pay, most of the times they refuse to pay that. Like I can't remember the last time I got detention. Well, no, actually, I haven't actually gotten paid for it. My the potato chip load that I delivered to Pueblo, Colorado, it took them like 8 hours to unload me. Was it 8 hours? Yeah, it took 8 hours, but the first 2 hours was free, so it was 6 hours of detention, $240 of detention pay, $40 an hour. Uh, I haven't gotten paid for that yet. I don't know if I ever will get paid for that. So, like, I don't like doing short loads because it's a lot of unpaid time. because the only thing that I really get paid to do is drive. So 1,278 loads when we put it here like this. Let's what market do we want to look at? Let's look at, well, let's start with the area that I'm in. Let's do Portland. 0 loads. We're going to do a 250-mile radius. 2 loads. 2 loads around Portland. Grants Pass, Oregon to Port Angeles, Washington. Independence, Oregon to Corona, California. So this is a 13 stop load. This load's been sitting on the load board for 4 days. This other one's been sitting on the load board for 1 day. Anything that sits on the load board for more than about 2 hours that picks up within the next couple of days is a bad load. So I'm not going to bother drilling down into the details of these loads to explain why they're bad loads. This one has 13 extra stops on it, and it's a short load. It only pays $3,300. How many days are on this load? 4 days are on this load. So at 70%, I'm just not going to try to do that. I could do that in my head, but I'm not going to try to do that in my head. Let's do 3325.10 times 0.7. That's $2,327.57. Divide that by 4, and that's $581.89. So your daily rate on that load is $581.89 approximately. I try to do $1,000 a day gross to the truck. So if you just think about this, if you run 6 days a week, which is about the maximum you can run in a truck, and you're running $500 a day, that's $3,000 a week gross to the truck. And if you're running your ass off like that, your fuel cost is going to be really high, like probably about $1,500 a week in fuel cost. And then you have your truck payment, which could be $700 a week. So now you're up to $2,200, and then your insurance, maybe it's $300 a week. Now you're up to $2,500. My insurance is nowhere near that, but I have extremely low insurance. $300 a week is a lot of people brag about having insurance that cheap in the industry. But anyway, like there's so many other costs we could go over, but right there you're at $2,500 in weekly expenses, and you're only making $3,000 total. So you'll be lucky to break even if you're doing $500 a day daily rates. So you need to, whenever you're looking at a load on whether it's good or bad, you need to look at what you're making daily, what you're making per mileage, the market you're picking up out of, the market you're going into. Like if you're taking a load that you're going to be very profitable on, but it's going out into Montana, you have to calculate for that. Like you have to, like you're going to have a massive deadhead after that load to go find your next load. Otherwise, you're going to be hauling something for 80 cents a mile. It's 45,000 pound max weight hazmat. You know, so you have to calculate all that in to see if it's a good load or a bad load or a profitable load or a loss or a break even. But anyway, these are bad loads. These are really bad loads. So this Grants Pass, Oregon to Port Angeles, Washington is basically a break-even load. It might even be a loss. Like this load, it looks good, $4.88 a mile, but this is a horrible load. This is absolutely horrible. Which is why I think I have this agent banned on. I've never hauled a load for this agency, so they're not blacklisted. I think I have them blocked on my load alerts. Let me double check. I don't want to talk bad about an agent that agent exclusions. You know what? I think I removed them from the exclusions. They're not on there. So I have 2 agencies on here that I've blacklisted, and I've talked about them before. And then I have 2 agencies on here for spamming the load board. So it's not the SUL agency, it's the STW agency. and then the BDN agency. Those are the two I have on here for spamming the board. I think I had SUL on here at one point, and I took them off. Because the problem I have whenever I get up into the Oregon, Washington area is that it's just agents that have really bad loads that just keep reposting the same loads over and over and over again. Those are almost the only load alerts that I get. And I get tired of getting, 10 load alerts a day from the same agency posting the same crap loads, and I'll eventually just block them. So I think that's what I did with the SUL agency, and then I think I went back and unblocked them at, a later point. All right, so now let's look at Dallas. 181 loads. Let's sort by total revenue. All right, there we go. So Dallas, Texas to Hayward, California, a power only or tow away. Max weight consumer goods or appliances, $4.38 a mile. It's paying really well, but it's been on the load board for 6 days, and it picks up on the 23rd, a week from now. So why are people avoiding this load? Because dealing with trailer utilization at Landstar is an absolute nightmare. So if you do a power only load, then you could be setting for 2 or 4 weeks waiting for a trailer, and you may have to deadhead 600, 1,000 miles for a trailer. So it is not good to do power only loads. The only time, like, there's very rare circumstances that I would do power only loads. The main one would be some kind of dedicated run. Dedicated runs, it's quite common for them to be power only. You're hauling customer, like the Hobby Lobby dedicated account that I did. I was using customer equipment. So here's one that was just posted. It's only 8 minutes old. Tinker Air Force Base in Oklahoma City to Poway, California. Poway, I don't know how to pronounce that. So it picks up tomorrow. 9,400 pounds of machine, 2 extra stops, 386 a mile. That looks like a decent load. I don't like dealing with military loads, and it has 2 extra stops on it. I'm curious about this load. Let's see if there's comments on it. Oh my goodness, this janky load board. It's going through like 15 different databases and applications, and it's just 6 drone engines. So you're hauling 6 drone engines from a Tinker Air Force Base, and has 2 extra stops: Indian Springs, Nevada, Adelanto, California, and then Poway, California. They don't have the Indian Springs, Nevada charted on here. I can't remember where Indian Springs is at. But if that's not charted on here, then the mileage is much higher. Right there's Indian Springs, Nevada. So it's northwest of Las Vegas. So that's the reason that the mileage rate looks really good, is because they don't have the Indian Springs stop charted on here. I don't know why that is. They have it listed, but it's not charted. It's not plotted. It's not part of the mileage. So that's going to add on probably another couple hundred miles, which is going to make this a really cheap load. So yeah, that's not a good load. And you have to deal with all the government BS. Like, checking in and checking off of military base is a pain in the butt. And then if you have to go into like military bases, if you've never been to a military base, they have different levels of security. So like I hauled a munitions load. It was it wasn't live munitions. Like anything that's like really sensitive, they only let teams haul that stuff. Those are highly specialized loads. Like hauling live ammo and stuff like that, those are highly specialized loads. So if a solo driver ever hauls like a military load, it's nothing special. It's nothing like critical. Um, is this team? Let's check. No, this is not a team load. So these are not like top of the line drone engines. This isn't like some critical awesome thing. I'm sure some super trucker will tell us a story about hauling this load, about how amazing it was. But this is not an awesome load. But like whenever I hauled the what I hauled was it was in the place where they store live ammo, but it was basically I don't know what it was. It was some type of explosive, and they whenever they used up the explosives, the cardboard tubes that the explosives were in, they threw them into boxes, and that's what I was hauling. Was basically just the containers that used to hold C4 or something like that. So it probably had C4 residue or some type of explosive residue on the containers that it was in, but it was just boxes of these spent containers. And I took those from, I think it was Georgia, some military base in Georgia, to a military base in McAllister, Oklahoma. And because I was taking them to and from the place where they store live ammunition, like missiles and stuff like that, that was in a more secure area. So I had to check in at the front gate to get into the base, and then I had to check into a secondary to get into a more secure area of the base. And like once you got into that more secure area, like there were missiles and artillery shells and stuff just sitting on pallets a couple of feet away from my truck. Like there was just live ordnance everywhere. Like it was like in those really in the more secure areas, they only let people that have been vetted into those areas. So it's just like everything's just setting everywhere. Like I wanted to go over there and like get a picture with a me standing next to a missile or something like that, but you're not allowed to take pictures in those secure areas. And um, in I think it was Georgia, they made me give away every device that could take a picture and everything that could start a fire, like every lighter, everything that had a camera on it. I gave them like a big bag with my laptop, all my phones, my lighters, everything. I had to turn all that stuff in before I could go into the more secure area. In McAllister, they didn't make me do that. They just told me no pictures. Um, so you couldn't record in the more secure areas. Couldn't take pictures or anything like that. But um, I wanted to go over there and like just touch one of the missiles, but I probably would have gotten shot if I did. But anyway, I don't like dealing with military loads. They're a bunch of drama, and the check-in processes and everything are insane. So yeah, Dallas is a really solid market. Dallas has like I don't think we have a premium market anymore. Once the LA market basically collapsed uh, a couple years ago, whenever the West Coast workers went off contract and a lot of freight diverted around the West Coast in general. Since then, I don't think we've had a premium market. We just have solid markets, good markets, and Dallas is one of the good markets. The Dallas area is one of the best markets Houston, Texas to Kingman, Arizona, 21,000 pounds of hab. It's only 264 a mile. I'm just kind of scrolling through these real quick. You can pause them if you want to look at them. I'm not really looking at them. If something catches my attention, then I'll look over at it. Are we there yet? There we go. We're at the bottom. So that's it. That is that's all the loads. I'm not seeing anything amazing. Let's Dallas, Texas to Hayward, California is the best paying load, but it's a power only load. You could end up losing money on this load. You might be sitting for 2 weeks without, like, just think about that. If your fixed costs are like $1,000 a week and you set for 2 weeks waiting for your next load, then you just lost $2,000. So that can, like, sitting, trying, and then if you have to deadhead 500 miles, let's say you set for 2 weeks and then trailer utilization offers you a load and it's 500 miles away, then you have to spend 500 miles of fuel to go get there and another day of sitting. Or, well, you're not sitting, you're driving, but it's another day that you're not getting paid. So it's another day on your fixed costs, and then you have 500 miles of variable costs. So this load right here, because it's power only, uh, no, it's not a good load. That's the reason it's been sitting there for a week and nobody's touched it. We refresh. Oh, we got Houston. We got a couple of these: Pasadena, Texas, Houston, Texas, going to Ashcroft, British Columbia, Ashcroft, British Columbia. This is probably the exact same load. Yeah, this is the exact same load, listed by two different agencies. So this is probably some spot market load that they're bidding on. And agents will put in different zip codes to change the mileage that would see one of them's 262 a mile, the other one's 263 a mile. It's probably actually picking up in Pasadena, but this agency put it as a Houston zip code so that it would be a little less mileage, which would give it a higher rate per mile. This is the type of shady stuff that these brokers do. All right, let's look at another market. So Dallas is hopping. Oh my goodness. Let's look at Los Angeles. Los Angeles. I don't expect it to be doing very well. Wow, 329 loads. This is good. For a while now, it's had, whenever I do this search between Dallas and LA has fewer loads than Dallas when you're looking at filtered loads, not total loads. All right. Let's make sure. I hate that I have to sort it by revenue every time I do a search. Like the old load board defaults to sorting by. I don't even know what the new load board sorts by. It doesn't sort by any of these metrics. It has some weird sorting that it does. And it is so annoying. Like there's so many annoying things about this new load board. All right, Torrance, California to Seward, Alaska. So the top two loads are Alaska loads. These are absolutely horrendous loads. $3 a mile to go to Alaska is really bad. You basically need to cut the mileage in half because you're probably going to be deadheading back from Alaska. So these loads might as well be listed at $1.50 a mile. These are atrocious loads. And this is most likely some spot market crap that these two people are bidding on. I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. But that's a horrible load. Here we go. San Diego to Lansing, Michigan. Auto part load. Auto part loads are generally really good paying loads. 2,200 miles, 336 a mile, 7,500 bucks. That's so far. That looks like a really good load. It's been on the load board for 5 hours. It picks up today. Why is that sitting on the board? That is an awesome load. Let's look and see if there's details on this. See if there's a comment. Team only. Oh, I didn't notice that. It's a team load. Oh, I'm not sorting. I'm not getting rid of teams. So yeah, that is an awesome solo load. That's I don't know, a mediocre team load. Let's edit the search and let's get rid of team loads. Team loads are highly specialized. If we want to look at team loads, then we will we'll do that on its own separate little search. Those Alaska loads were team loads? Are you kidding me? Oh my goodness, that makes them even worse loads. Let's double check that. I'm curious. Oh no. Uh, it's just every time you do the search, it resets the sort. So yeah, I don't think these Alaska loads are team loads. That would be so bad if these are team loads. No, they're not team loads. Loads should be ready at the end of next week, waiting on further instructions from the customer. But for now, assume the delivery date is firm on July 11th. Dude, this agent needs to get better at... Is this a direct shipper? No, this is not a direct customer. This is some spot market crap. Like, this person is horrible at negotiating rates. I think a lot of these agents just have no idea what a good rate is. All right, let's go back to flags and we'll do, let's get rid of the teams. Team, no, we don't want to see team loads. All right, now we got to sort it again. And it takes forever. This load board is so bad. All right. Torrance, California. We got the two Alaska loads. Then City of Industry to Fort Pierce, Florida, 278 a mile. That is not a good load. Santa Fe Springs, California to New York State. I don't go to New York, but I don't know. Maybe that's a mediocre load for New York. It's only 8,000 pounds, 250 a mile. It's a really big mileage run. LA to Gainesville, Florida. That's northern Florida. That's not too bad. It's north central Florida. Gainesville is where the University of Florida is at. So 289 a mile, that's not horrendous for, like, if you are delivering to Florida up along the I-10, that's not too bad. But you get down to central Florida, Tampa or Orlando, and you need a bit of a premium on those loads. And you get down to Miami, down to southern Florida, you need a huge premium on those loads. All right, Colton, California to Bellingham, Washington. 7 extra stops. It's only 11,000 pounds. $6,700. That is a good looking load to me. Colton, California to Bellingham, Washington. That's the SUL agency that I thought that I had blocked, but that's a good load. Like, I don't like doing extra stops. The load that I just delivered here to Washington from Dallas, Texas, had 2 extra stops on it, so 3 total deliveries. It was Rheem air conditioners. Well, Rude air conditioners. Rheem and Rude. That's their like consumer and commercial brands. So Colton, California to Bellingham, Washington. Let's take a peek at that. That is a really good looking load. Let's see if there's any gotchas on that load. The person to my right is pulling out of here right now. Oh goodness. There's a lot of comments. Let's look real quick. How long has this been sitting on the load board? It's only been on the load board for about 2 hours. Oh my goodness. 1 pick, 8 drops. Driver assist to tail. I talk about this every time I mention driver assist at Landstar. Landstar has this idea that if you're not putting it away on a shelf in the warehouse, then you're not unloading it. If you're taking it to the back of the trailer or from the back of the trailer and you're loading it into the trailer, they consider that a driver assist. They don't consider that as loading and unloading. I do consider that loading and unloading. If I'm taking it and I'm unloading it to the rear of the trailer, or I'm unloading it from the rear of the trailer into the trailer, loading it in, that's loading and unloading. That's not an assist. And Landstar only pays like $50 for a driver assist. It's a joke. But yeah, assist to tail. I remember when I worked for Conway Western Express. This, which is now XPO Logistics. Whenever I did local pickups and delivery, what our rule was that we only unloaded it to the tail of the trailer. That's it. If you needed it taken further than the tail, you had to pay extra for that. So, like, that was a standard loading and unloading, was just to pick it up from the back of the trailer and put it into the trailer, take it off the trailer. If you needed it delivered to like your front door or your garage or something, that was a residential delivery, which we charged extra for. So, and if you wanted us to like put it somewhere in your warehouse, more than, I think, 10 feet, we would deliver it or pick it up within 10 feet of the back of the trailer. Anything beyond 10 feet, charged extra. And anyway, I'm going off onto a rant about how ridiculous it is. All right, the driver assist at Landstar, how ridiculous it is. Okay, so let's see. So you have to load and you have to unload the trailer. It's drop and hook at pickup. Securement pictures must be taken at pickup. Take survey on the link of the body. Please make sure to take pictures of load securement at both pickup and so every delivery that you do, you have to take pictures. Failure to comply will result in loss of driver assist pay. Please take survey on the link of your... Oh, my goodness. Out of sequence for LRGR. LGC stop 3, blah, 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 blah. Sequence. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, I can see... Just looking at that comment makes me not want to deal with this load. Like, even though it's paying really well, looking at that comment makes me just not want to touch this crap. Like, this is a whole bunch of drama. Find somebody else to haul this crap. Don't want to deal with it. They've got another one, same agency. It was posted at the same time. It's an hour and 50 minutes old. Colton, California to Astoria, Oregon. 7 extra stops. Lebec, California to Centennial, Colorado. Colorado, generally, you got to pay $5 a mile for me to consider Colorado. And the 2 Colorado loads that are listed on here are both over $5 a mile. Oh, no, that's Astoria, Oregon, not Colorado. That's the one we were just looking at, the SUL agency. Well, not the one we were looking at, but that's another one from the same agent we were just looking at. Lebec, California to Centennial, Colorado, $5.66 a mile. That's a decent load. It's not amazing. It's not as amazing as it looks, because you're going to probably be deadheading 700 miles to get your next load. Commerce, California to Florence, Alabama. 23,000 pounds of hazmat. Henderson, Nevada, which is Vegas, to the Dalles, Oregon, which is just east of Portland. I think it's 100 miles east of Portland. If that, I'm not sure. Electronics, JQL agency. So that's the Google account. So $6 a mile. That's something that's really weird with the Google account is some of their loads, like this one is amazing. This is a really awesome load. I'm surprised it's been sitting on the load board for 5 hours. It picks up today. It's been sitting on the load board for 5 hours. That is an absolutely phenomenal load. Is there any? Oh, never mind. It is. It picks up the 17th. It delivers the 18th, and it's 1,000 miles. This is impossible for a solo driver to do. So this is a team load, and I'm pretty sure that we we filtered out team loads. So this is a team load they didn't flag it as team. So yeah, it's not listed as a team load, but this is impossible for a solo driver to do. JQL agency, they do a lot of team loads, so they just forgot to flag this one as team. So that's the reason it's been sitting on the load board for 5 hours. There's not a lot of teams at Landstar. So you'll see really good team loads sitting on the load board for several hours just because there's no team in the area to pick them up. Or there's better team loads available in the area. But yeah, that's a phenomenal load for a solo driver, but it's a team load. For a team, I think that's still a decent load for a team. That's I don't know. I'm really not familiar with teams. You're going into a really bad area. I'm in that area right now. I'm in the Seattle Portland area, and freight is just absolutely dead. It's horrible. So even at $6 a mile as a team, I'm not sure if I would want to go into the Portland area. But yeah, that's just a mislabeled team load. So yeah, as a solo driver, that is a phenomenal load. That's like a unicorn load as a solo driver. Let's not quite go unicorn because of how dead the Portland area is. If it were delivering to a good market, that would be a unicorn load. But since it's delivering to a horrible market, it's a really good load, not unicorn. Moreno Valley, California to Hobbs, New Mexico. This is the FLS agency, so this is Harbor Freight. The FLS agency has the Harbor Freight account. It has one extra stop on it. So $4.82 a mile to go to Hobbs, New Mexico. That's not that good. I would have to look to see exactly where Hobbs, New Mexico's at. But in the western half of the country, you have to be very careful about the destinations you go to. Because if you deliver somewhere like Hobbs, New Mexico, and the nearest freight market is 800 miles away, the nearest decent freight market is 800 miles away, if you tack on 800 more miles onto that load, what's the rate per mile at that point? That's the way you have to look at the loads on the western half of the United States. That's the reason there's so many trucking companies that only run the eastern half of the United States. They don't go west of I-35 or I-29. There's like USA Truck, the company that I started out with. They're an East Coast company. They don't go west of I-35, 29. So, I mean, they do, but it's rare. It's most of their drivers stay east of I-35. So yeah, I mainly run in the western half of the U.S. and you have to like almost all of the western half of the United States is a freight desert. So you have to calculate in deadhead to all these rates on all these locations you're going to figure out whether or not these loads are any good. I haven't gotten a single load alert while we've been making this video. And this is the way it's been for the last week. The DUV agency, they usually have good loads. What's this? Yuma, Arizona, Austin, Texas, 5,000 pounds of building materials, 4 extra stops, 252 a mile. That load is horrible. Moreno Valley, California to Bozeman, Montana for 381 a mile. Not a good load going out to Bozeman, Montana. Commerce, California to Lubbock, Texas. Not quite, really close to max weight, but not quite. It's 38,000 pounds, hazmat, 371 a mile. That's not bad. That's a decent load. That's a solid load. You're gonna have a little bit of a deadhead to get to Dallas, but Lubbock is not too terribly far away from Dallas. Dallas is a really good market. Santa Fe Springs, California to Pasco, Washington. 371 a mile, $4,000. Not bad. Not good either. Here's another Harbor Freight load. Moreno Valley to Farmington, New Mexico. 550 a mile. No extra stops on it. Like going to Farmington, New Mexico is very similar to taking a load to Colorado. You're going out in the middle of nowhere. There's not a good freight market for a long ways, so you have to factor in a big deadhead. So this is a 700-mile load. You might be driving 700 miles to get your next load, so you can cut the rate in half. So it's like, 265 a mile. Is that right? Or 255 a 275 a mile. Yeah, that's right. Is that right? I think that's right. This is the equivalent of like a 275 a mile load. So that's what I do whenever I'm looking at Colorado loads, is I just cut the rate in half. Gardenia, California to Post Falls, Idaho. 313 a mile. No, not that great. I mean, these aren't horrible loads. They're not great loads. Most of these loads are just mediocre. $8.39 a mile. Colton, California to Reno, Nevada. 8,000 pounds of consumer goods or appliances. It's going 450 miles, 839 a mile, 3,800 bucks. That looks like a solid load. Las Vegas to Las Vegas, round trip load. 278 a mile. Every time I see a round trip load, I think, oh, is that a dedicated run? Everybody's looking for a dedicated run these days. Every time you get into a bad freight market, even in a good freight market, people are always looking for dedicated runs. All right, there's no extra information on this. So it's going to Redwood Valley, California. Oh, wow. That sucks. That's off the beaten path. So you're going from Vegas to out in the middle of nowhere in northwest California. I don't know what the roads are like getting in and out of this place, but yeah, that location right there sucks. The 101 is probably the best way to get in and out of there, but to take the 101, that means you're going to have to drive down into the San Francisco area. So you'll probably come up onto the 5, take the 580 over, and then take this over, and then get onto the 101, take the 101 up, and then the 101 back down and do the same thing. Yeah, that's. I would not want to deal with that. That's another big red flag on loads. Is it someplace it's out in the middle of nowhere where you're going to be driving on dirt roads for 5 hours to get there, and then you have to get back out of there, so another 5 hours on dirt roads to get back out. Now I'm exaggerating about dirt roads, but I have really made deliveries on dirt roads. Like I've delivered to dairy farms before that like I had to go like 10 miles down a damn dirt road to get to the place. And then I get to the dairy farm, and like the guy that I interacted with that unloaded the trailer was really cool, but everyone else around there was an ass. Because they were mad at me because I did not pull up to like their check-in place. Like imagine pulling up to a farm. It's just a whole bunch of buildings. It's dirt roads, and like I don't know where I'm supposed to go. So I just like pulled into what looked like their main office building, and then somebody like the building that I pulled up to was it was just used for storage. They weren't actually working out of that building anymore. It was just like it looked like a hoarder house where it was just like boxes of crap piled up everywhere. You couldn't even walk around in the building. You just look in through the windows, and it's just piles of crap everywhere. And it looked like nobody had been in there in 10 years. Cobwebs and everything all over the place. But yeah, somebody pulled up in a pickup and was like, verified like what delivery I had. And they were like, yeah, follow me. And apparently they had a building that the truck drivers were supposed to check in at. And like they were mad that I didn't pull into that spot. Like, how the hell was I supposed to? You don't have any signs. You have nothing. Like, how do I know which building is which? But yeah, they just glared at me. They didn't say anything. I waved at them, and they just glared at me. Like, what a... And I'm sad to say this was in Oklahoma. And, like, Oklahoma, Texas area is known for their hospitality and stuff, but not everybody's nice. So let's look at another area. Los Angeles is actually looking a little better than it has looked. Let's do Atlanta. I don't really go out east very much anymore. 95 loads. That's not bad. Now let's sort by total revenue. There we go. All right, so Pendergrass, Georgia, to Happy Valley, Goose, BA, NF. This is some Canada place. I don't even know what NF stands for. Is that Newfoundland or something? Huge mileage load, 274 a mile, $7,500. Ellenwood, Georgia to Elk Grove, California, 276 a mile, $6,800. This would be a really awesome load if California was the LA area, if it was still a premium market. Then this would be a phenomenal load, because back when LA was a premium market, or basically the whole state of California was a premium market, you knew if you got to California, you were going to get showered with money taking loads out of California. So if you could get a decent paying load to get you to California, then that was a really good load. And this one is, a solid load, 276 a mile for a really big mileage load. That's decent. It's not amazing. It's not great. It's just a good load. It's a solid load. But now that the California market's no longer a premium market, California for a while, for the last year or so, has actually been a bad market. Loads that you could find decent paying loads that were basically running up and down I-5, keeping you on the West Coast. But to get back over to the central or eastern half of the country, you were looking at like $1.80 a mile on these loads on the gross to the truck. You're looking at loads that were paying like 260, 250 a mile on the full rate. Those were like the really good paying loads. The majority of loads were paying like 220 a mile on the full rate. Like really, really, really cheap loads to get you back over to the eastern half of the country. So it flipped to where used to when LA or the California was a premium market, you were basically paid a penalty on loads going to California because they were so desirable. But that switched to where over for like the last year, they've been paying a premium on loads just to lure people into California. So California seems to be in a state of flux right now where maybe California is becoming a solid market again. So this load to Elk Grove, California might be a decent load, or it might need to pay a bit of a premium to lure people over there. Who knows? I honestly, I haven't been paying too much attention to loads coming out of California. Savannah, Georgia to Lakeland, Florida. So Lake City is northern Florida. Lakeland is central Florida. So this has to pay quite a bit of a premium for central Florida. 4 extra stops, max weight chemical load, paying $2.89 a mile. That's not very good. Savannah, Georgia. How are they getting that much mileage? 4 extra stops. Oh, that's where the extra mileage is coming from. 2,300 miles. Savannah, Georgia, and Lakeland, Florida are really close to each other. So I don't know where they're going to have you driving all around the country on those 4 extra stops. We're not going to drill in and look at the map, though. Moore, South Carolina to Corner Brook, NL. Sounds like another Canada. These next 3 loads are all Canada. Saskatchewan, like I don't know anything about Canada loads. Atlanta, Georgia to North Reading, Massachusetts. Max weight hazmat, $4.50 a mile, $5,000. Good Lord. I can't stand it when people fly into parking spots next to me. There's somebody that just nosed in the parking spot next to me, and they just flew in at like 20 miles an hour into that parking spot. I can't. That is dangerous. It's disrespectful. It ticks me off. Like I don't care about them nosing in. I just care about the speed in which they pulled into the spot next to me. That is like I thought somebody was crashing into me when I saw somebody fly up on me that fast. Like imagine that you're sitting in the sleeper and out of the corner, out of the window, like the window's open right there, out of the window you see the cab of a truck flying at you at like 20 miles an hour while you're parked in a truck stop. I thought maybe somebody had a medical emergency, had a heart attack or something like that, was crashing into me. Some of these idiots out here. This is not a place that I would nose in. This is like right in front of the fuel island. There's a tremendous amount of traffic. Like there's a lot of room to to go straight in and straight out of these spots. So that part of it, that's fine for nosing in. But the other thing you have to consider about nosing in is the amount of cross traffic, because you can't see anything when you're backing out from a nosed in spot. You're completely reliant on the people out behind you. If somebody is not paying attention and they're parked behind you, um, you know, they don't notice you backing into them, then you just back into somebody. Somebody pulls up, they're not seeing you backing out, and they just pull in behind you as you're backing out. You're completely at the mercy of everybody. It's trust. You're trusting all these idiots out here, and these are like you know how bad these drivers are. You're putting a tremendous amount of faith in a bunch of bad drivers. So, yeah, this is a spot that I would not nose into because of how much traffic there is um, right here. It's just a really dangerous spot to blind back out of. All right, I'm just going to skim through this real quick. If you're interested in this, you can pause and look at the stuff. Remember, these are full rates. I get about 70% of the rates that you see on here. So don't get all excited, planning to be an owner operator and calculating all this up and be like, $4 a mile. Oh my goodness, man. I'll make so much money. I see people posting ridiculous stuff all the time about becoming an owner operator. They'll break it out onto a spreadsheet and do all kinds of math on it and stuff and break everything down. And I'm like, yeah, these are unrealistic numbers. Like they're calculating that they're going to average 3,000 miles a week, and they're going to average like $2 a mile gross to the truck. So they're going to be getting $6,000 gross per week as an average. Like that's what they're coming in. That's their expectation. That's unrealistic expectations, and they're basing all of their expenses and their business model off of that. That's unrealistic. My biggest piece of advice for anybody that's becoming an owner operator is expenses are critical. You need to manage your expenses. You need your expenses to be as low as possible. All right, let's look at another market. So we looked at, what do we look at? We looked at Portland, Dallas, LA, Atlanta. Let's take a peek at Chicago. Wow, only 57. Now, this is a 250-mile radius. This is air miles. So basically put a dot in Chicago and then draw a circle around it. So this is Milwaukee, like 250 miles around Chicago. That's a lot of markets. All right, let's sort by total revenue again. All right, Alaska, the number one load, Alaska. Yay. Number two load, Alaska. Yay. $15,000 load for $4 a mile and a $10,000 load for 264 a mile. That is a joke. 264 a mile to go to Alaska. That is so bad. Florida load for 261 a mile. That's not good. Mishawaka, Indiana to Heber, California. Auto Parts, the JRG agency. I think this is the agency that I hauled a Heber load for. 282 a mile. All right, I'm just going to skim through here. If I see something interesting, then I'll try to talk about it. Now, I'm not seeing anything. Like, if I were looking for a load out of this area, would I be calling on any of these loads? And, like, I'm not, like, really just glancing. I'm not digging in, and there might be some good loads I'm overlooking. Yeah. None of those looked very interesting to me. All right, one more market and then we'll wrap this up. Let me think. Um, well, let's just look at some bad places real quick. Denver, Colorado. 0 loads. This is the reason. Sorry, somebody out there honking their horn. This is the reason that I talk about these freight dead areas. So 250-mile radius around Denver, not a single load matches this. Like there are loads, don't get me wrong, but um, we have filters up here where we only want to see loads that are over 250 a mile and $3,000. Basically profitable loads. Let's increase the radius to 400 miles. One load. 500 miles. 19 loads. It is approximately 700 miles from Denver to the nearest decent freight market. So this is the reason that I talk about, taking loads into these areas like Denver where they're bad freight markets. Now let's look at another one that's a bad freight market, Miami. Miami is southern Florida. Again, 500-mile radius around Miami, 15 loads. Let's compare that to a good freight market like Dallas, Texas. 491 loads within 500 miles around Dallas. And we could probably drop that down to 250 miles. No, only 178 loads within 250 miles. 300 miles, 198, 350, 240, 400. My guess is the reason we're climbing up so high is Laredo, Texas. Laredo, Texas is 400-ish miles away from Dallas. So that I think that's the reason there's such a big jump once we get up around that area. All right, let me think here. I hate going to the Northeast, but let's do Philadelphia. 250 miles around Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. 16 loads. I did not expect it to be that bad. The Northeast is like, wow. Is this right? Philadelphia, 250 miles around Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. 16 loads. Wow. I thought the loads coming out of the Northeast paid pretty well. Like, I know almost nothing about the Northeast. I can't stand going into the Northeast. I won't even go into Pennsylvania. I used to take loads into Pennsylvania. I don't do that anymore. But wow. 16 loads. I'll scroll through them real quick. Oh my goodness, they got loads going to Colorado with multi-stops that are only paying like $2.80, $3 a mile. That is so bad. Florida. Most of these destinations are Florida and Colorado. This like the Northeast looks like a really, really bad place to be looking for a load. The Syracuse, New York round trip load with 5 extra stops. looks decent. I don't know. We'll have to look at the comments on that. But man, all these loads, look at the number of stops. If it has anything but 0, that means it has extra stops on it. Almost all of these loads are extra stop loads. Almost all these loads are going to like Canada or Florida or Colorado, really bad destinations. Like these loads are so bad. Like there might be some good loads in there. I just skimmed through it. Like I didn't look closely at every single load, but I did not expect the Northeast to be this bad. All right, so that's it. We'll wrap up the video there. That should give you, a rough idea of the freight market from Landstar's load board. Like maybe other load boards look completely different than this, but Landstar's load board I think is very reflective of the market overall because the vast majority of freight on Landstar's load board is reposted spot market loads. So Landstar's load board looks very similar to the spot market because there's so many spot market loads that are posted on Landstar's load board. Let me show you something real quick. Edit search, and let's clear the search. 71,298 available loads. Now, let's go and let's look at just direct shipper freight. So right now we're at 71,298, and now we're at 4,424. That's how many contract loads there are on Landstar's load board, is 4,424. All the rest of the loads are reposted spot market crap. So, yeah, I think Landstar's load board is reflective of the spot market. And then you have some contract freight mixed in there. And I think that everything we looked at was a mixture of contract and spot market. I don't think I sorted anything by only contract freight in the searches today. So anyway, hope you found that useful. I know that like these load board videos are not my favorite videos to make, but they seem to be the most popular videos. This is what people want to see because they're out there trying to make a decision. There's not a lot of good information in trucking. Everybody tries to hide all the information about like companies whenever they put out advertisements on what they pay and they're trying to recruit you in. They're very dodgy about answering any specific questions. They give you very little information. You're supposed to make a decision about your life, and they're not giving you the information you need to make that decision. And then you have all these people that are giving false information about how much money they're making because people have such low self-esteem that you have these YouTube truckers out here that are putting up videos about making $5,000 gross per week. Well, that's not actually what they're making. They're referring to the gross as like the full rate that the load pays. Like these loads that you see on here, like this load right here that's paying $3,604. You have a lot of people on YouTube that are saying that they made $3,604 gross on this load. Well, that's not true. Well, we get about 70% of that. So what we're actually making on 3604 times 0.7, that's 2,500, 2,522. So you're making $2,500 on this load. You got YouTube truckers out there saying that they're making $3,600 gross. That's not your gross. But there's a lot of misinformation and there's a lot of information lacking. So I understand why people want to see these load board videos because they're trying to get as much information as they can to make a decision about their business or their life. So yeah, hopefully you found the information that you needed. If there's something specific that you want to see that I didn't go over, then feel free to throw comments in there. If I see comments about people wanting to see something specific, then I try to accommodate that. So anyway, best of luck out there. And there's so much to talk about aside. I wanted to kind of keep this to a load board video, but there's a tremendous amount of drama going on in the world. Lots and lots of wars going on and potential wars. And right now, the really big thing is Israel and Iran. And we have a potential, like, it just keeps escalating up. It's Anyway, that's a whole other video. I could talk for hours about it, but I might make another video later at some point. Hopefully, I find a load and I'll do a driving video and we'll talk about Israel, Iran, and all that stuff. But and there's a lot of stuff going on in the world, so you need to be paying attention to those things because they have a huge impact on the freight market and fuel prices and like everything involving our industry. So good luck out there and goodbye.